So we've got 4 sessions today. In just a few moments, we'll be starting with Claire Wilson, and then Christian Vonk from ECB will be taking us through to a short break at just after 11 o'clock. Then we'll be kicking off the second half of the program with Lucy Banks' session on problem management in financial services, and rounding off with Effie Bagordi from Nima Works. We'll be talking about delivering security and compliance in the sector. And then finally, discussion and Q&A, and we'll probably be finishing shortly before 1 o'clock. So these events are specifically designed to be interactive, and we'll conclude with a panel discussion and Q&A, as I've just said. During the presentations themselves, you can post any thoughts and questions in the chat. Our speakers will keep an eye on any emerging themes and queries. I'll be monitoring those as well. So please feel free to use that function. The session will be recorded, and most of the proceedings will be shared in the events section of the members area on our website. And we'll send you to the link to that afterwards, in case you'd like to share the content with any colleagues. This is our last sector spotlight for 2023, but we're currently planning next year's events. So if you have any thoughts on industry areas that you'd like us to cover, please let us know. Also, of course, we hope to see some of you at ITSM 23 next month, our annual conference. It's an amazing agenda over 2 days. We've got 4 tracks of great content, plus our annual awards, of course, and that's all taking place in Reading. So we do hope to see some of you there, and if you haven't booked yet, get in touch and we can, of course, help you with that. So that's enough from me. To start the ball rolling today, I'd like to introduce Claire Wilson from Coventry Building Society, who'll be talking about how her organisation has approached rebuilding its CMDB to deploy a common services data model. Thanks, Claire.
Hi everyone, morning, you okay? I'm going to share my screen. That's okay.
Yes, of course.
It does say it is disabled.
And that's because...
Są pobijane piłki, mówi, żeby zobaczyć, jaka będzie pogoda.
So if everyone could go on mute, that would be great.
Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes, all good, thank you.
Fabulous. So good morning, everyone. My name's Claire Wilson, and welcome to my presentation. It's the first one of these I've done for ITSMF, so be gentle with me. So I'm going to be talking to you about how we've approached dependency and service mapping and lifecycle management, and we've done that via a complete rebuild of our CMDB, our configuration management database. First of all, welcome to the COV, as we're fondly known. So we are the second largest building society in the UK, for those that didn't know that. We only have a few branches. We've got 64 branches and 15 agencies. And actually what makes us different is we are a mutual. In fact, we're actually a really modern mutual, which basically means we are owned, guided, supported by our members. We're absolutely members first. We're here to make people better off through life. We do that via offering great products. So we only actually offer 2 products. One is savings and one is mortgages. So we don't have transactional current accounts, and that's a conscious decision. Introduce you to myself. My name's Claire Wilson. As I said, I look after IT shared services at the Coventry, incident problem change, asset management, capacity management, transition release, and our ServiceNow development team. That will be a theme throughout this presentation, as our IT service management tool of choice is ServiceNow. I know some of you might be on other platforms, you know, Remedy, Halo obviously is emerging in the market, etc. But we are using ServiceNow. So I'll canter through any questions you've got. That's absolutely fine. If we can wait until the end, I'd appreciate it. But if it's really important, I'm happy to take them as we go. Just talking around what the objective of this presentation is. So we have rebuilt our CMDB so that it delivers value. One of my observations when I joined the COV, so I've only been there now, I say only been there, I've been there 16 months. Before that, I've worked at a few outsourcing organisations in a similar role. was our CMDB had a lot of manual entries. There was a lot of erroneous data in there. It wasn't particularly automated, and therefore it wasn't driving a lot of our IT service management practices. And I hope a lot of you out there are nodding, saying that's a familiar thing. Usually you start with your CMDB at your IT service management tool implementation, but there is a massive tendency to do things quickly and think, right, we'll just start and we'll get the incident module launched, and we'll sort of go back and do that. And a lot of organizations don't tend to do that, and therefore your IT service management tool is never really optimized. So we recognise that. So we kicked off a project last year to rebuild our CMDB, and I'll talk to you about that. And we did that to enable two things really. We wanted to enable service mapping, so that was a view, an automatic view of our services and how they hang together. That's from a technical aspect, but also from a business perspective. You may know we're heavily regulated by the FCA and the PRA. We have to understand how our IT maps to our important business services. Therefore, in the event of an outage, how quickly we can get that business service back up and running. So why did we do this? We were very lucky at the COV. We do have a lot of money invested in improvement programs, which is fantastic. So we kicked off with, okay, what's our problem? What are we trying to fix here? So it was difficult to understand what technical services were linked to our important business services and what depends on what. Therefore, we said we were going to kick off a program, service and dependency mapping, which we did. We wanted to rectify discovery, and I'll talk to you about how we did that. Clean up our CMDB, archiving any old information. Turn on automatic discovery, that's key, and that's anything automated, largely going through our graph connectors into our IRE, which is our engine in the CMDB. And then we wanted to map our important business services to the technology that underpins that. I do like a cup of tea, so I've got a drink, so just bear with me.
What's an IRE, please?
It's an engine, it's the ServiceNow integrated engine, which basically takes all your data and it normalizes it.
Okay, what is that? Is that a ServiceNow product? What does it stand for?
I'll come back to you and let you know. Sorry,
okay, all right, okay, thank you.
It's basically the engine in the middle of the in the CMDB. It normalizes all your information, takes all your imports, consistently logs it, and normalizes the data. Okay, the next thing. So why else? Why were we looking at this? We wanted to create a single source to understand the lifecycle status of our hardware and software. So we've got varying different tools in which you could do that, but it was quite often if we wanted to understand the lifecycle status, and by that I mean, active, retired, is it in support, is it out of support? We would say if it was servers, we'd contact the server team. If it was end user, we might have a look at SCCM. And actually we thought, no, we've got this world leading product that can do this for us. So let's get everything into a single source of truth. So that's where the IRE comes in. So using data from different sources, we wanted to normalize through the CMDB, use that clean data to report on the status of our software and hardware. That's to include things like end of life, end of support, the different versions. That's a common I'd say challenge, but opportunity, I suppose, within the IT service management industry. It's around getting that single report for your lifecycle status without having to go to all your different teams or towers or whatever, or your supplier if you're outsourcing, to understand that. So that was another reason why we had to start with cleaning up the CMDB. So this is the common services data model. It is a ServiceNow. I have to caveat with that. This is their model, not a COV model. But effectively, it's basically, I'd say, dummy's guide for how to populate your configuration management database. We looked at loads of different models. We also looked at being really transparent, different tool sets, and thought, what's the best way for us to do this? In the end, we decided to go with a CSDM. It's fair to say that anyone that has implemented an IT service management tool, probably in the last 10 years, will know, actually, this wasn't around then. So this is I say relatively new. When we deployed in 2017, a lot of the tables weren't there. So you'd put a lot of things in a business services table, for example. You didn't have all of these tables that drive this model. They just weren't there. It's fair to say that vendors, IT service management vendors, have realised that there is a need for this stuff and therefore gone on to evolve their products, which is fantastic. It does create a lot of work, though, having to go back and recreate or move a lot of your data. And I'm happy to talk to anyone through how we did that, either online at the end of this or offline. But effectively, we decided to go with this common services data model. It's version 4 is the current one. And there is an actual out-of-the-box methodology, if you will, for doing this. And it says start with your business application. So start top right. Everything starts with your applications. You then move that down to your applications into what business capability do they support. Fantastic. You know, anyone that might have a capability model would know. If you don't, that's okay. Start with your business applications, top right quadrant. We have but the build components, the top left quadrant there, it doesn't tend to come into the model until later on in the game. So we've parked that. That's on our backlog to pick up later. And we've largely focused in the bottom left quadrant here. So that's all your managed technical services. That's how your application services link to the technology that underpins them. And we've done that via auto discovery to give us a great picture of our applications estate largely. What applications hang off what servers do they use? What platforms do they hang off? Moving to the right, and this I'll be honest, this was a new area for me. Linking your applications then to what business service offerings are out there and what business services they support. So here at the COV, we have 14 business services, important business services. I say we've got a lot more than that. They link out to the regulator for regular reporting, you know, make a payment, withdraw cash. You know, what's our core business services that we offer? We have to be able to, in the event of an outage, not only report on application X is down, okay, what business owner are we communicating to around that? But what business services does that underpin? We're quite a simple business, so a lot of our applications link to the same business services. But for other areas I've worked in, so manufacturing, that picture was a lot bigger. So their business services were a lot more, while large, they were a lot bigger. I think I've talked you over that, but that's, again, obviously I think these slides are going out, but that's useful information for those of you that wants to refer it to. But just to reiterate, the bottom left quadrant is all around the operation environments and infrastructure. That's where you start. So you link that to your applications. You can then go on and link your build to the top left quadrant and the bottom right, all around your service offerings and your business services at a later date. It is called the crawl, walk, run, fly implementation model, and I've got a quick slide on that in this pack. But how did we do it? How did we do it? And this is not dummy. This is our actual real approach of how we did it at the COV. So we wanted to create a single product backlog, and that the product backlog for us, and we are an agile organisation in terms of our project management methodology. So we did try and deliver this in an agile approach. We had to create a single OR, that's Ops Resilience aligned, and CEDO, which is the IT department that we run, product backlog. Put simply, that's, okay, what's our list of business applications? And a business application is, for all intents and purposes, an application. It's just the ServiceNow definition of an application. So created our backlog. Okay, what's our list? That actually wasn't easy. And anyone that's done an application rationalization program or an application upgrade program will know that actually getting a single source of applications, you do have to go through a lot of your, SCCM. You might have a licensing tool that you need to go through, go around and talk to your business. Then you've got all your IT applications you might have hidden under the desk applications. So that did take quite a lot of time actually to go through and get our list of applications. In a previous world, I waited until my application list was complete. Here I didn't actually, took a bit more of an agile approach, which isn't naturally where I sit. I am a Prince 2 trained. That's how my career has grown, through program management, in between programs and BAU in an IT area. But yeah, I have tried to adopt more of an agile approach. And I said, right, well, we know that this 50 set of applications is never going to change. There are core offering, there are core apps that we use, our core banking platform. So we started there because that was just no regrets work for us. So that's one of my tips, I'd say. Rather than waiting for doing a mass discovery program of getting everything, carry on that in parallel, but start with information that you have. Then we have to populate referential data in the foundation layer of the which is the common services data model. So that's all around things like your locations, getting some of your contracts built in, all that foundation layer that is referenced in that common services data model. We picked out what was important to us. So one of them was locations. How can we get our location information accurate and correct? And that links onto work stream 3, which was all around automating. Automate. So when we did a full assessment of our CMDB, we had loads of manual imports from things like SCCM, manual imports from other tools. Therefore, that data, some data was being duplicated. A lot of it was erroneous. And we're also manually creating certain things like CI records, config item records, which just wasn't right. So we scrapped all that. We did this in prod as well. We did it in test first, but we scrapped it all. We archived off a load of our old CIs, config items, and I'm talking millions that were no longer relevant. And therefore, we ended up with a nice, clean CMDB, basically. We automated all of our data connectivity via the graph connectors that feed into the engine in the CMDB rather than having those import-export tables. There's 3 layers, really, in your CMDB. You can manually create data, which is not recommended. You can import, which is better, but I'd say still not recommended. Or you can do the graph connectors where you'll get 2 applications that talk to each other, and the tool set we use does connect to other industry leading tool sets. Example, ServiceNow connects to Workday, which is our HR and finance tool set. ServiceNow also can connect directly to loads of other tools that you might want it to connect to. So one of my tips would be to connect directly. So we cleaned that up, and that was a technical work stream that we ran. And then we moved on to starting this service and dependency mapping. Now, we are on this journey, by the way. We haven't finished it, but we had to go and service map. And ServiceNow does a lot of that for you, to be honest. Any ITSM tool really does it for you. And effectively, once you've got everything right and you've spent time building all your foundation layer, the tool set will go and auto discover and show you what links to what. That was phenomenal. And I've been part of a lot of IT service management tool implementations, and you get sold the dream. You have to invest the time to set them up properly. And when you do, and I'll be honest, this is probably the first time that I've gone back and gone, right, let's get it back out the box and show us what it can do. It is fantastic. I mean, for example, we had some SaaS applications, and I know a lot of people are SaaS, had no back-end technology. And when I service mapped them, it showed me actually they were connected to this and connected to that. No support and maintenance document is going to show you that, especially when you've got a project methodology where you might design something, build something, things change over time, and you might not necessarily always go back and check that your design is as per your build. I know you should, but not all, that sometimes doesn't happen. And then we had another work stream, which was all around improving the lifecycle status, which was a secondary benefit, really, which now enables us to automate a lot of our lifecycle management reporting and consistently have that view. That is a phased approach to us doing that. So the first phase, which we've completed, was all around getting all that data into a single source and then producing basically a spreadsheet, which is what we did. This second phase, which we're going to hopefully get to completion in Q1 2024, is around enabling all the dashboards within the ITSM tool to automate that for us. We do have another tool set on the pitch for that, and that it's no secret. So we have Snow, which is a lifecycle management tool. You can use other things, like if anyone's on ServiceNow, you could get SAM Pro, Software Asset Management Pro. But yeah, we've managed to successfully integrate Snow, which is our lifecycle management tool. That's been fantastic for us. It's been able us to do things like, for example, in a renewal for software, look at actually how many people are using that software. Look at what that software is linked to via going back to ServiceNow and looking at the service maps, and go and make some effective decisions on, okay, can we reharvest any licenses there? Where is this application in its life cycle? Do we still need it? Do we have that capability somewhere else? That's a big journey that we're going to go on next year around rationalizing our application estate using a lot of this data that we've managed to get. Here's the common services data model development journey. So this is how the out-of-the-box recommendation. We did take this as well, and we planned our approach around it. Foundation, focusing on all your core data, any reporting that you might have to do. Moving on to the crawl, which is all around your business applications, starting with your business applications, then going out to build your application services. And the definition for that is really simple. So a business application would be ServiceNow. An application service would be ServiceNow on pre-prod, ServiceNow on prod, and then you go and map those individual application services. Or you might have application X, and then that application, you might have version 1, version 2, version 3. So that's just the definition of a business application versus an application service. You automatically discover your application services. So anything below that will auto-discover in your product if you've got everything set up right. And then we're going to move on to walk, run, and fly. So we're very much focused on foundation and crawl, getting our X amount of applications done, and then we're going to move on to further populating out the model. To be honest, we've got a lot of value out of the foundation and crawl, to be honest. I thought I'd just start to move towards the end of my presentation, showing you what sort of a bit more outcome driven. What does it look like? This is absolutely mock data. But our interim state, which is where we're at now around our lifecycle management, is being able to, in one central place, report on all of our applications, our servers, and our databases, and its lifecycle status in one place. That will help form, obsolescence programs or such like that we need to run. That is completely mock data. The picture in real life, actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, especially with a lot of the the Microsoft products out there. Our target state, and this is just an absolute example, but it's all going to be automated in the tool sets. We're going to be able to drill down and see and create dashboards to show us our lifecycle status, so we don't have to have any offline spreadsheets at all. That's my aim, to get everything in a single source of truth. I will do that next year. I'm not a fan of having things offline and spreadsheets flung around, but we had to start at the start, really, and to do that we used the tool set out of the data out of the tool set, but we had to export it out and do a little bit of tweaking with it. We really want to focus next year on optimizing our IT asset utilization around reclaiming licenses. We've not really been very good at it, to be honest, reusing existing assets, but all of that, I can't stress enough, starts at sorting out your CMDB. Here's an example service map. This ServiceNow one. It shows you how it looks. So you do have to manually populate your application. So you have to key in, what is it you want to discover, ServiceNow, your application services underneath that, and then it will go out and discover it for you. But it shows you here what the taxonomy of that looks like, and therefore then how you might go out and use that data. And it's really powerful, because what it has enabled us to do is start to think about how we might change our transition process, how we might want to tweak our support and maintenance documents. Do we even need them anymore? And just so we can move forward and have everything in a single source of truth, rather than having documents here, there, and everywhere. And what have we learned? And this is just something I thought I'd share with you all. Start with your applications. That's absolutely key. Some people start, think, oh, okay, I'll get a list of all my infrastructure or do this. Start with your applications and identify owners for those applications. The owners that you need are business owner. You also need to identify your application owner. You also need to identify who your lead architect, however you might want to do that, what your architecture looks like supporting that, and you're managed by team. So the main team that would manage it. So for example, I could be an owner for something. I could be a business owner. I also could be the application owner in my role, say for ServiceNow. But my managed by team is largely probably going to be my app support team that I have, or it could be an outsourced team for some people on this call. Next top tip from everyone at the Cov, and I did ask the team, if you were to say to someone else, 15 months ago now, knowing what you know now, what would your tips be? Enable discovery in graph connectors and disable any manual imports if possible. I can't tell you the amount of erroneous data we found, duplicates, just wrong information. Follow your vendors out of the box recommendation for data structure. A lot of vendors, and I love every IT service management tool I've used before has offered great value to me in my organization. They do have out of the box recommendations for implementing your good CMDB. If you are new on your journey with IT service management, do not skip that step. it's well worth, you know, thinking, right, well, we'll just have incident operating here, but in parallel going and sorting your CMDB out. That's absolutely fine. Don't just think, oh, well, you know, we've got service desk logging incidents and they're manually creating CIs, or, you know, we've got a certain amount of CIs, but the information's not really right. It really, really is key to follow the vendors out of the box recommendation for data structure and setting up your IT service management. Sorry, I just need to, I can't see what I put on my last box. What's that last box say? I've got a big line over it. Sorry, one sec. Can move it up. Ah, yeah, spend time getting accurate data into your CMDB. So, as I mentioned before, it is so vital to getting accurate data in your CMDB. I think I've hammered that home quite a lot. Just so key, really, to make sure your CMDB is set up properly. Like I said, I was quite flabbergasted by the amount of erroneous data we had in ours, when I actually had some breathing space to go and have a look at it. And before I started out, I probably would have said it was all right. But it's enabled us to do other things. So some of the secondary benefits we've had are things like problem management. I know there's going to be another presentation on problem management today, and I'm looking forward to that. But it's enabled us to start thinking differently about how we trend. You know, you could think you've got a problem here, and actually when you look at your service map, all of your problems are linking to something further down the line in terms of your infrastructure. So it's enabled us to think differently about that. And I know I've cantered through that array of knots. It's a subject I could talk about all day. But thanks so much for listening. If anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to take them now. But my email address is there. Please don't hesitate in contacting me if you do have any questions and you don't necessarily want to say now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. That was brilliant. An excellent start to our event. And as you said, I think that was the first time Coventry have shared their experiences on one of our events. So it's very valuable to get that perspective. There were just a couple of questions that popped up in the chat as you were talking. One from Mark there on whether you'd considered the asset management function within ServiceNow as opposed to integrating Snow with ServiceNow. And also Daniel there asked about the value to the user community from the perspective of the end users within Coventry. How has it affected them? Thank you.
Great question. So we have first one. We have definitely considered this software asset management modules within ServiceNow. We are actually evaluating, and again, this is not a secret, via a business case, what the best way for us to go is going forward, whether, you know, around that Snow capability or the SAM capability. So yeah, great question. We've also got the hardware asset management module in ServiceNow, so we do have that. Next question around the end user benefit. That's a really great question. And again, this was something that we thought that we would be able to go through and look at our benefits once we knew we'd done a lot of foundation data in the CMDB. What it's enabled us to do is clean up our request catalogue. So we had a lot of requests that would link in the model to a service offering. So what we've been able to do is go through and massively tidy that up to make ourselves easier to contact, easier to do business with. And that has been as a part of this. And it wasn't something that we set out to do, actually. It was the secondary thing that we did as we moved through the programme, as we started looking at data and what all this information was showing us. We could see that users were requesting X amount of things and they were doing it in this way. I think we'll touch a lot more on the end user facing stuff as we move through the model and you get to Fly, as that does talk around your business service offerings. That's largely around how users interact with you. So we've done an initial phase on that, but I definitely think that's something that we'll look at as we move throughout the programme.
Super, thank you. Couple more have come up there. How have you convinced your management to invest in auto discovery and auto mapping? What was the business case? Discovery alone has significant challenges, stuff behind firewalls, secure zones. Discovery tools need to know what they're looking for. And also, are your maps a containerized view of a service, or can the view be expanded to the infrastructure and other services?
Great, two great questions. So I am traditionally from an outsourcing background, and getting investment for this kind of stuff has been hard. I've got to say, and this is not a sales pitch at all for the Coventry, but they've been absolutely fantastic since I joined there. So they do ring fence funds for improvement programs, and this was one of them. And they've been absolutely supportive, especially around the fact that it's not immediately obvious end user facing. It's not necessarily shiny. I always like to think of it as we are building the foundation layer of a house. So we don't have our nice windows, doors, roof available for and visible, but they have invested. So we did do a business case on the benefits, and that they could see that. I mean, the benefits to this, especially around things like lifecycle management, enabling obsolescence programs, reducing our risk position. So it's not necessarily within banking all around just making things more efficient, say for end users, shiny new things. We focus a lot at the Cov on reducing our risk position. And reducing that risk, and that's a lot of how this program was funded, was all around our risk appetite and lowering that. The second thing is around it is dynamic. So if you were to change a config item via auto discovery, it will automatically pick that up. We have had challenges around certain environments, but what we've managed to do via effective program management, while we've got an agile structure, is we have got a dedicated group of resource. So I do have a networks resource, a server, an apps resource, server resource. I've got them within my project squad, which has enabled us to focus. Rather than doing the discovery as we went, we focused on doing that first. And we spent the first, I'd say, 9 months of our program sorting out our data, which didn't really have a lot of impact. But I'm quite lucky where I work that the board were very supportive of us doing that to reduce our risk position. And now we're starting to see the fruits of that. There was towards the end a lot of, I need a life cycle management report. How long is it going to be? But yeah, we did manage to get the buy-in of our stakeholders and enable us to support the work.